It's good to see so many names. Just kicking things off. We'll hopefully have another couple of people join us. But yeah, thanks for those who have logged on so far. My name is Matt, and I'm joined by my colleague Dave from marketing, who's going to help me do the slides. And I've been here at Martech for 7.5 years, Dave even longer than that. And in this webinar, we're going to talk about the new era of portable gas detection. So Dave, if you can just kick things off. So here is the itinerary, the agenda. We'll start off by talking about the evolution of personal gas detection, because a lot's changed since the very, very early days of shipping. Talking about some general innovation regarding other aspects of shipping, of course, what the future of personal gas detection looks like, specifically about the kind of certification, legislation, and approvals that are increasingly required now through all the different ship states. Have a look at some accessories to gas detection, show you guys the live demo of our cost savings calculator, discuss a special offer that everybody who has signed up for the webinar is entitled to the offer, and there will be a Q&A at the end as well. Thanks, Dave. So, to kick things off, as I mentioned, the evolution of personal gas detection has taken many phases. Very early on, particularly down mines, coal mines in particular, and other mines, you would have the canary in the coal mine that the workers would use primarily to indicate if there was a lack of oxygen. Then the canary is going to notice that before the guys would underground. And that was their indication to get out, because they would soon struggle to breathe as well. Moving on, in terms of the advancements in gas detection, there became a lamp, double-edged sword lamp, which kind of had pros and cons to it. It would also be able to signify to the guys that there's a lack of oxygen if the flame was to be extinguished. But if there was flammable gas present, then having a naked flame around posed some significant risks and challenges as well. So with that one said, we're into the sort of the newer era of gas detection, utilizing digital technology and catalytic sensors. So intelligent sensors that would be able to combust any gases present in the atmosphere, and using gas oxidation, it would be able to generate a reading based on the heat correlating to the electric current and resistance. You would know more accurately, specifically what levels of gas were present, rather than just, a yes or a no answer. But there's more. There's more in the evolution. Thanks, Dave. So before we get on to specifically the next steps of gas detection evolution, what we wanted to do in the webinar really was highlight just how the industry is continually evolving in all aspects. So just to give a segue to the main purpose of the presentation, when you're looking at navigation, which is an incredibly key aspect of shipping, that's another area that's seen huge advancements over decades and centuries of shipping. Early voyages would rely on dead reckoning and celestial navigation, so just using the stars and the planets to guide them. Before more sophisticated radar technology was introduced, which gave the first sort of real-time positioning at sea, which made huge leaps and bounds in terms of avoiding collision between ships, to moving further forward, having GPS, global positioning satellites. Of course, that's quite a cool aspect of shipping because it's tied to also space, because we have to have the satellites before we can have the GPS systems. So a huge leap forward there in the 20th century, and extending beyond navigation as well. You guys on the call will all be aware of the advancements in propulsion, from early human-powered sailboats to then steam engines, and now sort of the predominant propulsion system being the diesel engine. And looking further to the future, of course, dual fuel LNG engine powered vessels, as well as electric, and even nuclear propulsion, which is still, I think it's something that you see a lot in submarines, but less so on ships. But exciting again to look for the future. And with that, there's some continual advancements to ship design, materials from wood to steel, and so on and so forth, all in the pursuit of making shipping more efficient, more economical, safer, and wherever we can, greener, and also more autonomous, something that is increasingly talked about as well. And who knows, as well mentioned in the last tab there, blockchain technology could become something very relevant in terms of the future navigation for vessels. So just an aside to the gas detection, giving a context to the general advancements in shipping. Thanks, Dave. But here's the reason that we're gathered on the webinar. So back to the specific gas detection, you will all be aware of the new offering from Martech, which is the CCC. I have the box here with me. I can see some names on the webinar who have probably held one of these already in their hands, who have already bought some of their ships. Just take this out of the box. But this is what I want to talk about for the most part. So here is the CCC personal gas detector, multi-gas 4-gas detector, which is an incredible advancement in the gas detection on board ships and in general. So this is a 3-year disposable gas detector. And during those 3 years, it's designed never to be recharged. The battery will continue to run. No calibration is required. It comes with a certificate that is guaranteed for 3 years. And there's never any maintenance required to be performed. You'll never need to access the back of the detector. You would never need to change any of the sensors inside it. There is the requirement to bump test, which I will talk about in a little bit more detail later on. But this webinar coincides nicely as the 3-year point. So this has been on the market for 3 years. The first batch of detectors we supplied back in May 2021 are now being renewed. And as you can see on the bottom right corner, we've supplied nearly 5,000 units to over 200 customers in the marine industry alone, and to some other land-based applications as well. And those 200 customers include some of the biggest shipping companies in the world, with fleets in excess of 100 vessels that have been around for centuries, names that you will know in the industry. So trusted by some of the world's biggest shipping companies already in its first 3 years. And as you just saw, you take it out of the box. On the bottom left of your screen, you can see it has a lifetime warranty. Simply remove it from the box, turn it on, and enjoy 3 years of hassle-free, reliable personal gas detection. It couldn't be any simpler than that. Thank you, Dave. So One of the reasons that this is touted as an advancement in personal gas detection, as I've mentioned at the start here, is to do with that first line on your screen regarding the infrared sensor technology. So we've utilized the infrared sensor, which allows the device not to require calibration. It means that it isn't power intensive, so the battery lasts for 3 years, as you can see on your screen. But at the same time, with these USPs that we like to boast about, we haven't compromised in any other area. So you can expect all the kind of USPs from your other historic multi-gas meters. You're continually logging data. It has an IP rating of 68. So that means it's water resistant up to 1.5 meters. It has very good dust proof rating. It's incredibly durable and hard wearing. It simply has a single button operation to cycle through the menus and a very nice, easy to read LCD screen. And it functions in extreme cold and heat. So you can see on your right-hand side of your screen, this was a picture that was sent to me about 18 months ago from the Neumeier station. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is a German-owned research station, which you can see in the background in the Antarctic. So they have been using these for a while and performing very well in the cold temperatures. And at the last point, you can read as well, it will work in an inert atmosphere, and it will work in zone 0 environments because, again, of the infrared sensor. There's no catalytic sensor. There is no combustion occurring in the device, which actually separates the CCC from the vast majority of personal gas detectors on the market, as they are only certified to zone 1 environments, whereas the CCC will be good in zone 0. Essentially anywhere on board a tanker, you do not have to worry. So the next few slides are essentially a lot of screenshots from the data sheet that can be downloaded from our website. So I won't spend too long going over every single one of these numbers, but you can see the sensor ranges for each of hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide, flammable gas, and oxygen, which are all very standard. The one to highlight here is, again, the flammable sensor, which you can see at the bottom is the infrared sensor that I mentioned. The other 3 being the more standard electrochemical cell type sensors. And the flammable sensor is only up to 100% LEL, so around 5% methane. We have other detection solutions for if you're requiring to measure, in particular, the tank spaces in your bulk carriers or tanker vessels, and they can measure the full range of flammable gas from 0 to 100% volume, but the CCC is just the LEL range of flammable gas. As I say, some more data points from the data sheet. You can see key on the left-hand side, the 3-year lifetime is 1,095 days, which is actually just over 3 years, I think, by my calculations. And that's guaranteed. So this device will last for 1,095 days. Now, that's important to note that that is from the date of activation or the activate before date that is printed on the box. So it does have an activate before date that is around 6 months after it leaves the factory. So if the device is activated before that date, then the countdown will begin 3 years or 1,100 days. But if it's not activated before that date, then the warranty and the 3-year life will begin from the date that is printed on the box. It's important to make that distinction. And it's, again, it's certified for up to 1.5 minutes of alarm. So the battery itself, we get a lot of questions about the battery. it never needs to be recharged. Well, what if it dies? But we've we've verified, as you can see, the third point on the battery life box. It's tested up to 1.5 minutes every day of alarming. That's visual and audible alarms. For 1,000 days, it can do that for 90 seconds every single day, and still the battery will last. And you can see there is a countdown on the screen. There you go. It might appear backwards on your screen, I'm not sure, but it tells you just exactly how long is left. This particular example is 1 month and 4 days. It's a demo unit that's been in our stock for 3 years, so it's just about to expire. And you can see there are the data on there regarding the alarms, very standard information. The humidity rating, 5 to 95% is very common. It's what you see and it's what you expect from an instrument like this. As I say, this is all on the data sheet. If you want to have a look in your own time, you can download it from our website. So I mentioned about the bump testing. What you should see on your screen, hopefully, is a screenshot of my former colleague, Ben, just with his eyes closed. He's about to present to you exactly how you would perform a bump test for the CCC. What I wanted to make sure people understood was the bump testing is something that can never be got around. Even when we are able to boast a calibration-free instrument such as the CCC, the bump testing is separate to that calibration. So it comes from the IMO. It's mandated across the industry, regardless of the model of detector. You must take care to bump test frequently all your instruments. And Dave, you can press play in just a second. Ben is going to give you a demonstration now on how you would perform a bump test on the CCC.
Hi everyone, Ben here at Martech Marine. It's just a quick video today to show you how to bump test the CCC. Now you will find all of the instructions on how to use a CCC with the operator's manual. If you need one of these, please let us know and we can get this sent over. But in order to bump test, which we do recommend to be done before every usage, you're going to need a few things. So one, you need your CCC. You'll need the calibration cap, and this comes with all of the CCCs that we provide. You're going to need a little bit of tubing. You're going to need a fixed flow regulator at 0.5 litres per minute, and you're going to need a bottle of Fast-Cal gas FCG 21050. So in a previous video we showed you how to get into the settings. This is how you do a bump test. So the same, press it twice, and what you need to do is wait for it to show status. Once it's done that, we can click into it, and it will show us our last calibration, when the calibration's due, and bump test. Now if we click it on bump test, you will see it goes into a force mode to apply gas. So what we're going to do, clip it in, not touch it, and we're just going to turn the gas on. Now that these are being tested, we know that it is working. It has gone into an alarm, making sure that it's reading. Once this is done, we can turn it off and we can remove the calibration cap. Now it will continue to alarm shortly. As you say, it is very loud, but after a moment or two, that will go back to normal. So that's how easy it is to do a bump test. As we say, we do recommend you do that before every use. You can also just do a standard bump test where you can just apply some gas and make sure that the numbers match up, but that will not record in the logs. By doing it this way that we've shown you through the settings, it records it. So if you were to go back into your last bump test, and you'd see it will be on the date. So for today it's the 3rd of June. If we were to go through it, it will say 3rd of June.
Okay, so that was Ben there telling us how to do the bump test. Just a quick note, I've seen somebody's put a message, a question in the Q&A box. I encourage all of you to do the same. Let us know if there's questions you have. But the question was if this recording can be shared after. So yes, this will be available to you guys. If you've signed up, we can email you a recording, well, this recording now, of the presentation. So yeah, get some questions in the Q&A box before the end. As I said from the agenda, one of the important topics in the shipping industry is regarding certification, legislation and approvals. Not just regarding personal gas detectors, of course, but in every aspect of shipping. Compliance is incredibly important, as I'm sure most people on this call will know. And I'm very pleased to say the CCC gas detector has all of the approvals on your screen now. It was certified by DNV for its MED wheel mark. And recently, since the UK left the European Union, there is a new a new certification approval body, MER, which essentially runs alongside MED. As I said, because the UK left the EU, there is this new legislation which the CCC also has received approval. And then regarding the bottom three on your screen, you can see the specifics of those ATEX and intrinsically safe ratings on the datasheet itself. There's a lot of small print designating the specific approval. But as I said, essentially the key point is that the CCC is certified to zone 0, so the highest ATEX rating. Thanks, Dave. And here you can see the thing I was talking about before. I showed you Ben's video, which is from the IMO. It's 13 years old now, but the resolution from November 2011 regarding personal gas detection. And the quote is that the master or other responsible person should determine that it is safe to enter an enclosed space by ensuring that the atmosphere of the space has been tested as appropriate with properly calibrated instrument. Now, that last phrase, of course, calibrated instrument, is vital. The interpretation of that legislation is important. So I will continue to quote the second part. So appropriate testing of the atmosphere of a space should be carried out with properly calibrated equipment by the person trained in the use of the equipment. The manufacturer's instructions should be strictly followed. So now we get to the point where the CCC, you can have confidence that you are meeting this legislation because from a manufacturer's perspective, that's Martech, you are strictly following our advice when you are bump testing this device, but there is no need to calibrate it. It is properly calibrated for 3 years, so it meets the IMO's circular resolution. And the last point there just repeats essentially the first point. Thanks, thanks, Dave. It's okay. And moving on, so we have the International Safety Guide for Tankers and Terminals, not applicable necessarily to a lot of you guys on the call if you are only dealing with dry cargo vessels, containers, bulk carriers, car carriers, that sort of thing. But vital for tanker vessels. Now, the CCC, again, the quote, the CCC meets the ISGOT, otherwise I wouldn't have it on this slide, of course. But to quote again, the legislation, gas measuring equipment should be tested in line with the manufacturer's instructions before daily use. That essentially, again, is just performing a bump test. Every time your crew are going to use one of these life-saving instruments, it's not only in their interests as far as the legislation goes, but it's in their own best interest for their personal safety that they know the devices are working. So a quick bump test, as you saw from Ben's video, will get the device to alarm. You will hear the alarm, you will see the alarm, and you will know that the instrument is at least working as it should do. And again, the second quote here, calibration, adjustment, and additional maintenance should be carried out in line with the manufacturer's instructions. As I said, from our manufacturer's perspective, you don't need to calibrate. As long as you're bump testing, you are in line with our instructions and you are safely meeting the legislation. So in terms of the safe operation of the CCC detector on board the vessel, what you can see on your screen here on the right-hand side is a screenshot of the PC software, computer software that is a free download online. And you can see here that you have a lot of numbers, a lot of categories. What the infrared USB link, which you can see on the top left, what that allows you to do is to customize the sensor alarm levels of the instrument. So if you have particular requirements on your vessel, that the low alarm should be different to the standard manufacturer settings, then you can change that with the simple use of the USB infrared link and the free downloadable software. So you can do that for the low alarm, the high alarm, the short-term exposure limit, and the time-weighted average. You can adjust the bump test interval. You can see on there that's not actually set on the settings as standard. And the calibration interval as well, you can see is set for more days than the device will actually last for. Naturally, that is because it's not required to be calibrated. But if you're watching this and your own internal safety management systems dictate calibration has to be done, then you can calibrate the CCC. It's not required, but it's possible to do so if you have your own unique, stringent requirements. If you are, for example, required by oil majors, the big companies, Chevron or Shell or BP or Saudi Aramco or Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, any of these oil giants, they will have their own set of requirements, most likely. And so the CCC can meet them. You just have to adjust to meet those requirements. So it's quite a versatile instrument in terms of application, whether that is dry cargo, wet cargo, land, on shore. We're giving you the power to adjust the device to your own requirements. Next slide, please, Dave. And this slide gives you an example of the two different options that we have available for the remote sampling equipment. That top one there you can see is the hand aspirator kit. The red bulb there is what you would depress if you were looking to make a remote sample, and you can see the plastic probe at the back of the picture as well. This is good for up to 9 meters, around 27 feet. It simply just clips on over the sensor housing on the CCC detector, and you can feed the hose into whichever area you wish to monitor, whether that is for pre-entry requirements or for generally just remote sampling. The second option is a little bit more sophisticated, allows you to obtain remote samples from much further away. It's the similarly orange colored external pump. You can see it doesn't have a screen, it just has a simple power on button. This can draw a sample up to 75 feet, which is about 22 meters. So for those longer range samples, you would consider this alternative to the hand aspirator kit. Unlike the CCC, this external pump is quite power intensive. This does not boast the same battery life of 3 years, but it certainly has enough runtime for most applications on board the vessel. You can see the 4th bullet point there. It's around a 4 to 6 hour. Sorry, the 2nd bullet point is it gives you a 40-hour continuous runtime. And the 4th bullet point shows that is only 4 or 6 hours to recharge. So not really an issue in terms of the battery, but just a much more powerful sampling tool. Right, so now we have the second of 2 videos for you. We thought we'd do it this way rather than have too much for me to go wrong live, because my colleague Nicole, you can see her face in the corner of the screen, she's going to run through the cost savings calculator. This is a clip from a webinar she did earlier this year, I think, or maybe at the end of last year. And it's going to, sorry, Nicole, she's going to show you a comparison between your current gas detection solution. What is that costing you over several years in terms of the spare parts and the logistics costs versus the powerful cost savings of the CCC, which has none of those things and just requires to be renewed every 3 years. So I will let Nicole talk for a little while. It's a little bit longer than Ben's video, and I will join you guys again in about 5 minutes.
We've got an array of tools that we've built around the CCC that sort of help our customers do some comparisons against the CCC and your current solution. The easiest one and probably the most impactful of them all is this savings calculator, and what it enables you to do is take your current solution and all the costs that are associated with it and directly compare it to the cost of the CCC. And what I'll do for you now is just give you a very quick demonstration of how it works and just prove that it's a really simple tool. So as a starting off point, we'll put in the cost of your current detector. We know that there's cheaper purchase prices out there on the market in terms of an initial buy price. So we'll pop in a nice low figure of $650. We'll then move on to calibration costs. So we know that these can vary broadly depending on the ports that your vessels are sailing in. We know that some ports in South America, for example, can be particularly expensive for these kind of things. But if your vessel's on those trading routes, then that's the kind of only option that you've got. But taking that aside, we'll put in again a bit of an average price of around $200. The first sensor cost that you need to consider then is the cost of your replacement oxygen sensors. So similar to your calibrations, these can vary, but they do tend to come in at around $200. Again, these are replaced every 2 years. So across 6 years, you're looking at sort of multiple oxygen sensor replacements. The next one that you've got is your dual tox sensor. These tend to be a little bit more expensive than your oxygen sensors because you've got 2 gases being detected within the one sensor. So we'll pop that in at sort of around $350. The last one then is the LEL sensor. It's got the longest life of them all, sort of around 5 years, and it comes in at a similar price to the dual tox. So what we've got now is the cost of your detector itself, and then the cost of the calibrations and the sensors that you'll have to replace along the way. The last one is logistical costs, and we refer to them here at Martech as hidden costs because they are very much just that. What we tend to find when we're speaking to our customers is the cost of getting the detectors to and from your vessel, so back to a service provider or a calibration provider, getting the sensors to and from the vessel are often overlooked. And this is probably because naturally you're sending equipment to and from your ship all the time. But if we take those into account, and even if we put in a really, really low figure of sort of $100 per maintenance interval, you'll see that it quite quickly escalates to a considerable amount of money. Over 6 years, you're looking at $500, which in this case is almost the cost of the original detector itself. So if we move across then to the right hand side, we'll put in the cost of the CCC detector. Its current pricing is at $879, and what then happens is it directly compares the $879 against this 3-year cost here of $2,000, and and calculates a saving in this case of $1,121. Which, looking at it like this, I must admit, does seem really trivial. But if you then think about that's per detector, we know that vessels carry multiple personal gas detectors. A tanker, for example, often has sort of 8 to 10 multi-gas detectors on board. So you're easily coming in at around $10,000 saving per vessel. We amplify that then further by the number of tankers in a fleet. If you take a fleet of 20 tankers, you've got $200,000 that you can save within 3 years. And you've not done anything different. You've not stopped detecting gas. You've not stopped protecting your crew. You're just swapping out one detector for another. And as I'm sure most of you will know, $200,000 worth of savings can be much better reinvested in other aspects of operating a vessel. So that's the calculator. That's how it works, and we'll be able to share those and hope to share those with as many of our customers as we can, so that you can carry out your own comparisons.
So there we go. That was Nicole. Giving you guys a demonstration, an example of the cost savings calculator, which is a tool that you can access on our website, I believe, Dave. Yep, Dave's not in, that's good. And if you're struggling, just drop an email to us. We can send that to you guys so you can perform those exercises for your own unique circumstances within your own company. But a few things to mention there. So it's a great tool. The numbers will be different, as I say, for each different circumstance. On the right-hand side, the pricing for the CCC, the price that Nicole used was $879, but it's now a lot less than that. Actually, it's less than $750. So something to bear in mind. We can even quote you guys for much larger quantities, and you can get a better discount even further than that. Which leads me on quite nicely to the webinar offer, which anybody who's signed up for today, they will be able to benefit from. And there's 2 components to this. So for every 10 detectors you purchase, you will receive 1 absolutely free. So an 11th detector completely free of charge, which would be great to a lot of you. But if you're thinking, well, I'm only just a small company, I only have a few different people. I forgot to mention actually earlier in the presentation, we have a few marine survey companies, inspection bodies. They have, half a dozen units in their office for the guys going on board to carry out the inspections. So if you don't need 10 detectors, well, we're still going to give you an exclusive offer for signing up today. So we will give you a free bottle of bump test gas for the CCC. If you're not purchasing 10 units, but less than 10. So offers for everybody depending on your circumstances. But yeah, thanks, Dave. So here is just a summary. There's only this slide, I think, and then there's a Q&A. So if you still have some questions that you haven't put in the chat box, drop them in now. There are a few already from those people that put them in. We're going to get to them just after this slide. But in summary, what we talked about in this presentation is the evolution of gas detection and the critical role that it plays within the maritime industry, as so many of you are already aware. We've seen how traditional gas detectors can be burdensome when they have to be frequently calibrated, spare parts continuously sent to the vessel, as Nicole was mentioning in the cost-saving calculator. And a lot of those costs can be hidden to your company. They may not be quoted by your suppliers, by the gas detection instrument companies, but you will be paying for them through logistic costs, for agents handling fees, in the time that your purchasing department is spending sending RFQs and POs and emailing back and forth. A lot of time is wasted in this specific area. And that's what we set out to eliminate. Just as much as the costs is the time. 3 years ago, when we first launched the CCC detector, We recognized just how much time was being spent by so many of our biggest customers on the gas detection spare parts, and so we did something about it. So we've shown the CCC solves a lot of these problems by offering a 3-year battery life, not having any routine calibration, as I've said, having sensors that last for 3 years, and not having to be maintained annually. And I don't think I've stressed this last point enough. I mentioned it already, but it has a lifetime warranty. So during the full 3 years, as I've said, from the activation date, that is, there is a full 3-year warranty. So you have peace of mind that if something was to fail, you are covered. As long as it's not a damage caused by your crew, as we get now and again from them, smashing the screen, which is not a lot we can do about. It is very durable, but it still happens on board the vessels. As long as it's not damaged by the crew themselves, if something goes wrong, which doesn't happen a lot, we will replace it for you guys. So with that said, by switching to the CCC gas detector, you can guarantee compliance, as I've mentioned, with all of the safety bodies and regulations. Not only comply with the legislation, but guarantee the safety on board for your workers, and save money and save time on the gas detection operations. So you can do all of this. We know you can do all of this with the CCC because, as I've said, it's the 3-year point now. And from the earlier slide, there are over 200 companies, over 5,000 units that have proven this works. This solution does save money. It does save time, and all while guaranteeing compliance and safety for your crew. So with that said, Dave, I think that's the questions section. I know we have a few.
Yeah, we have one question from Adnan saying, why is the CCC detector disposable and why can't it be reused after 3 years by calibration, changing the sensors and installing a new battery?
Thanks for your question, Adnan, and it's a good question. It's one that does come up time and time again. And we appreciate that some detectors on the market, you can maintain them for longer periods than 3 years. We're not oblivious to that. We have solutions like that that we've done in the past that we continue to support to this day. The reason why the CCC is designed to be a 3-year disposable instrument is essentially just a limitation of technology. If we could extend this, and in the future, I fully expect that we will push the boundaries continually and increase this 3 years to 4 years, 5 years, and so on. But right now, that's kind of the roof of the technological advancements. With that said, because this is quite a loaded question that prompts a lot of other questions, 3 years is still quite a long time. It's a long time to have a compliant solution on board the vessel where you don't have to worry about sending it to the ship, or sorry, sending it from the ship to the shore, or sending spare parts from the shore to the ship. 3 years is a good amount of time that essentially when you replenish the instrument, you would look to dispose of this in a similar manner to an electronic gadget, just like you would any other electronic items from the vessels. You would replenish that, and the money and time you've saved over those 3 years will more than make up for the cost of a new instrument at the 3-year point, as demonstrated by my colleague Nicole in her video. So I hope that's answered your question. That's the reason why it's designed to be 3 years. I think there was a couple more.
We do have another question, but it's very similar. It's what will happen after 3 years? Will we get a new device or calibrate it again, and we'll make maintenance, then continue using?
Yeah, it sounds like a similar question to the last one, and as I've said, it's designed that way to be self-contained. So you would not replace the battery to try and make it last longer. Similarly, you would not replace the sensors to do that. You would dispose of the instrument, you would replace the instrument in full, and you would enjoy another 3 years of compliance, of safety guarantees, and a full warranty guarantee as well. So I hope that clarifies it. But it's the question that comes up most often, because most people on board the ships and in the offices as well, they're very much used to these instruments being maintained over a longer period of time. But having been very involved in that in the last, I don't know, decade and a half, Martech Marine, two decades, we've seen how the older these personal gas detectors get, yes, you can replace parts. Yes, they're available for most models on the market. But the cost of maintaining and supporting old devices very, very quickly becomes a cost negative exercise when you are factoring in all of the mentioned things like the agents fees, logistics costs, the time spent back and forth between suppliers and your procurement department. If you're having a very reliable 3-yearly interval, you guys know to expect that. We can notify you just ahead of the 3-year renewal date, and you have a reliable solution going forward with very minimal shipping, very minimal costs, and very minimal time spent on this operation.
We've had one more comment from Nicholas saying, together with the presentation, maybe also we can share the mentioned calendar for our reviewing.
The calendar?
Calculator, sorry.
Oh. The calculator, yeah, as I said, that is on the website. So if you do go to the Martech Marine website, under the CCC section, you should be able to navigate to the cost savings calculator. It may ask you for your email address and company or telephone to download it. And if you have any questions, you can always just give our office number a call that's on the website, or the info@martech-marine.com. Again, the email I think is at the bottom of the website. So if you're struggling to download it directly, just email or call and we can send that to you. And of course, the copy of this recording will be available to every email that's signed up as well. So,
and we do have one more question saying the device will send from the UK, but China and Hong Kong customs formalities will not give it permission to enter the country due to the battery. Please share if we have sent directly to China before.
We have. I'm very pleased to say we've sent the CCC to China and to Hong Kong. It's actually prompted another point, so thank you so much for that question, whoever that was. The battery, because it lasts for 3 years, a lot of people seem to think it must have some kind of extremely high lithium content that makes it very hazardous to ship. And that's simply not the case. The reason why the battery lasts for 3 years is not because it's an incredibly powerful battery. I mean, it is a good battery, of course, but it's the infrared sensor that I mentioned near the beginning of the presentation. Because that infrared sensor technology is so less power intensive compared to the traditional catalytic sensor type, that sensor does not drain the battery as much. So we can ship these. We can ship around 4 units per box in one airway bill to the vessels. And we've sent them to China because there's a lot of new build yards in China. A lot of our customers have brand new vessels that are being launched from China that require these to be delivered before the vessel can be launched. And we can get them imported through the customs in China and Hong Kong. And as long as we're doing it the right way, which we have very well established international shipping team, logistics department that know what they are doing. And if you're appointing responsible agents as well in China and Hong Kong, we will work with them to make sure these instruments are cleared and delivered on time to your vessel. And there is no worries regarding the battery, as I've mentioned. It isn't hazardous. And if these are just sent on their own, they can be sent via DHL courier service. If you're additionally, if you're putting a gas bottle with the shipment, then we are restricted to FedEx, international shipping, and air freight. But nonetheless, we can deliver basically to every single country in the world, the CCC, so it's not a problem.
And they are all the questions we've been provided.
Great. So I don't want to keep you guys too long. If there are no more questions, I will wish you a good afternoon, a good evening, or good morning, depending on who's logging on from where in the world. And just to thank you all again for joining. I've enjoyed the opportunity to present this product to us, to you, at its 3-year anniversary this month. So get in touch if you need anything else, and we look forward to helping to supply your vessels and your team. And make sure you take advantage, the full advantage of the exclusive webinar offer as well. So thank you very much.